Hello kindergartners at North Columbia Elementary School. My name is Jeff Mather and I am a sculptor. I live here in Georgia. I live in Atlanta and I make sculptures. A person who makes that kind of 3D art is a sculptor, and the kind of art that we make is called sculpture. So I make all different kinds of sculpture with people, and I love to work at a STEAM school. My t-shirt might be showing up backwards because my camera has flipped it like it's in a mirror, but it says I am a STEAM artist in residence, and that means that I work with people who are learning math sometimes, and that's a great fit because you need math to make big sculptures. I tend to make big sculptures. And I love to make art with people who are learning science and really paying attention and looking hard at the natural world and plants and water and things like that. So I'm going to show you some pictures and have them run while I'm talking, and that'll give you an idea that when I say sculpture, I don't mean statues. I don't mean sculptures that people look at and say, oh, that looks like a horse, or that looks like something that I recognize. It may be a sculpture that creates a space. And in fact, I'm going to share with you a nickname that some students have given me, because I'm always asking the students designing art with me, working together to talk about the space that the sculpture is going to live in and how it might change that space. And so one day the students said, Mr. Mather, we're going to have a nickname for you. We're going to call you Mr. Spaceman. And I said, okay, that's fine. You can call me Mr. Mather. You can call me Mr. Spaceman. I am all about space, thinking about space the way people who design buildings, who are called architects, who design buildings also think about space. And I think about shapes. So a lot of what we're going to talk about and what's sitting here on this table in front of me is about thinking about shapes and combining shapes. It would be great if while you're listening to this, you have a pencil or a crayon in your hand and a piece of paper so that you can be making shapes on paper and thinking about how to combine shapes. Not just a simple shape, but a shape maybe overlapped and combined with another shape. So we'll get to that, but right now let's talk about what's going on the screen. You're seeing sculptures that are going by one after another. Some of them are outdoors, some of them are indoors. I never work alone. I'm actually one of those people who isn't real good with color. I have a color vision weakness, and maybe that's partly an explanation for why I concentrate on space and shape and not color. But I find those people who are good with color and ask them to work with me. So I always have partners, and I always reach out to find out what other people have as strengths. Now, when we work together, we might be making something big, but usually we will draw our ideas first. And we'll make many drawings. Just one drawing might be good, but then we'll set that aside and make a second version and sometimes a third version. Sometimes we draw together, more than one person on the same piece of paper. So we practice what we call collaborating. And every time you make a new version, a new drawing, we call that an iteration. So let's just pause right there for a second. I want you to say that word out loud. If you've never heard it before, never said it, the word is iteration. Let me hear it. Iteration. So iteration means a new one, a slightly different one. When we iterate in the engineering design process, when we're going to engineer something we're going to build, then sometimes we build it and we say, this could be better. I can always do this a little better. And so I'm going to make a second iteration, a second one, and it's going to be a little different and hopefully a little better. And sometimes I do that several times. I make many iterations before I get to the version that may just be made out of cardboard or something like you might be using at home to make your sculptures. And then I think about, what if that was 10 feet tall? What if that was 12 feet wide? Have I really thought about how well engineered this is and how well designed it is? So, we are going to talk about some of the stuff I have right here on my table. I'm looking around the house. What can I make make art with, make sculptures with, that I might just have in the house. You know, I look around the house, I said, well, here's a cup full of pencils, basic scissors, paper clips. No, not paper clips, clothespins. These are called clothespins, and a lot of people have these to hang up clothes, I guess, to dry, or we use them in our house just to close potato chip bags. So I started looking at materials like this and say, now could we make puppets out of this? Could we make a sculpture out of this? How could they go together without needing to have any glue or anything? So then I took a pencil and I took some clothespins and I started to make a little sculpture design. And it's just clothespins and a pencil. Think about, if I had more clothespins and more pencils, I could make some kind of a structure, some kind of a little space. And maybe I'll even make little tiny cutout people and put them next to it so it makes it look like it's 10 feet tall. Makes it look like it's really big. So I hear that you're also interested in whether a sculpture can float. So that's a fun challenge. Can a sculpture float? Of course, that depends on what material it might be made out of. I look around the house and I see that someone has collected corks. So I say, well, I know corks float. Do I have enough corks here that they could be part of my sculpture and help it to float? Different lengths. So I say, okay, there's something to set aside and know that I have. Also, every house, even if you don't have things, you go, I can't make sculpture, I don't have any materials. Every house usually gets junk mail in the mail. You know, these things that you don't really want. Sometimes you might use a coupon, or your parents might, but you know, it just goes usually right in the recycling bin. So I looked in the recycling bin the other day and found some glossy, shiny junk mail, and I started to roll it up. And rolled it up real tight, rolled it up actually around a pencil, put a pencil inside and rolled it up tight, and then with just a little bit of plain glue, I made a bunch of these tubes. And these are just junk mail tubes. It was going to go in the recycling anyway, but with just a little bit of rolling it up, I've got tubes. And then I discovered that with a little bit of glue, I could begin to make a design and make a structure. So that was fun to discover that I can make things at home even when I feel like I don't have any materials. I look around the house, and here's one of the things I started to make out of nothing but junk mail. This is a little design for a space that someone could go inside of, and there's a funny word for this kind of design. We call it a kiosk. A kiosk is something where you could go inside and maybe have information, have things to interact with, maybe like a touch screen to give people information inside a kiosk. So I started to design this simple little structure, and it's really just made of junk mail. That's all it is. Okay, so on we go. What else floats? Now, you may not have foam in the house, but sometimes junk mail or packages come to the house and they have padding that's like foam. So I took some foam and I made a little structure here. I also wrote words all over it, but you can never mind the words. Just look at how this is nothing but blue tape. Like sometimes people have masking tape that they hold things together with. The blue tape I like because it just looks better. It's sometimes called painter's tape. And so I've just taped together pieces of foam and made a little miniature scaffolding tower. So this was very easy to make, but I had to have the foam. So, you know, if you have any foam and you want something to float, you know foam is good for floating. And then I hear you're also going to be practicing your numbers, putting pennies on your sculptures to make sure that they can also hold up some weight, hold the weight of pennies, and you're going to count how many pennies your sculptures can hold. That is a great STEAM project right there. So space and shape, that's where I really live. Now look at this red shape. It might look like a toy, it might look like a puzzle. This is actually not a toy and not a puzzle. It's just something that has some math going on with it, and it's held together by magnets. So watch this. Boop. I can just pull out a piece of it and put it back in. Click. Now this is something that gets your math brain, the way we think about math, it actually starts up my math brain, just holding it in my hand. I'm holding this in my hand, and you might think he's not doing math. He's not thinking about numbers and the things we think about in math. But they say, and they've studied people's brains holding shapes like this, that the part of our brain, the way we think about math, this gets it started. And so that's why people have these, is they'll use this to get unstuck. They're thinking about doing something with a math problem, and they go, I feel stuck. I don't know what to do. You pick up something like this, and you hold it in your hands, and just look at it, maybe take it apart a little bit, put it back together, put it aside, and go back to your math problems, and you can get started again. It's like that part of your brain just got woken up. I also have, if you can see down here, different kinds of things to build with. And these are just things that people give me because they know that I like to build. And I'm just discovering that these, well, that was, ha ha ha, these are magnetic. So they hold together without any glue, and you can, like that little ball I was just holding, I can experiment and make bridges and other, whoops, fell down, other structures, and see that they actually hold together because they're magnetic. Or they fall on the floor like that one just did. Okay. There it goes. I also have these kinds of shapes that people give me. Nice deep colors and unusual shapes. Not your regular kind of blocks, but it lets me make different kinds of small shapes on a tabletop, but I like to think about them as if they were big, as if they were like 10 foot tall. So this has just been a little bit of an introduction how someone who does work like me, who is a sculptor and works together with other people in a STEAM school, can get ideas started and then combine them. So I was asking you to draw a shape or two on a piece of paper with a crayon. Now, if you would take a different shape idea, one you don't already have down on your paper, and put it on top of the other shape. Overlapping, it means like partially on top of. So partially to the side, partially on top. And by putting two basic shapes together, whatever you chose to make, now you start to have some interesting interplay back and forth. It's like playing music that we hear with different sounds, and you're using different shapes and making a design. I would love to see what kind of basic designs you come up with, and maybe you guys can send me some pictures. It's been great talking with you, and I hope to stay in touch with North Columbia Elementary School. This is Jeff Mather saying bye for now.